Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into a new product that's out for the C8. I just bought it. I did a little bit of research on it just to kind of see what it is. And this is from Boost District. It's about $195, and this is basically a park release tool for your DCT, and that's kind of what we're going to be going over today. So I purchased this. Like I said, I got a $5 off coupon. I did some research on it, and the reason that I bought it is because I felt like this is a preventative maintenance item that you can do for the guys that are highly modded or that anticipate at some point possibly having either a transmission failure, engine failure, electrical failure, something from modifying the cars or using them very aggressively at the track, drag strip, whatever that might be. Because anybody who does this stuff knows that, like, you pay to play, this stuff happens. And so that's why I bought this product. Now, that being said, I did a little bit of research, but not a lot. And I see some good things. There's a factory tool that's out that you can use on the car. And what this does is this takes the area on the transmission. There's a little side prong out here. The factory tool reaches down there, basically. You have to pull this back trunk space off, and you can manually pull it back or forward. I'm not sure the rotation direction. And someone has to manually hold it while the other person pushes the car, and then when it releases, it's in tension, it's a spring-loaded, and it's torque limited. So you have to have two people, basically, one pushing the car and one holding the lever, and then it re-engages immediately because it's spring-loaded once it's loose. Now, that tool is about $600. I've seen it between $800 to $1,500 to purchase. And that's basically what I've seen so far in that tool. And there's another competitor that's out right now. It's a DIY Parts or something like that. They have one that has a lever that sits right here to where you can just push forward, and it automatically does that for you. And it's a distance limited thing instead of a torque limited. And so you push it forward and you disengage. So what happens to our cars when they're in park? So basically, the reason why this is important, when our cars are in park, our clutches are disengaged, but our car is actually in gear. And so it has a gear set inside the transmission, which I'll show you here. There's an electronic solenoid that uses hydraulics to move a lever back and forth that engages the prawl, which is the little lock mechanism on the rotating gear set. And that's how the cars go into park. Now, if you lose power, you absolutely cannot engage that. That is the problem. And so that's where this kind of comes in. What this does is this sets over this tooth right here, okay? This is gonna set over that little end. And this is gonna lock in, I'm assuming, there's no instructions, so I don't know. We're gonna do a deep dive into it. I'm assuming this is gonna lock it and keep it where it needs to be. And whenever you need to move the car, I'm making an assumption, I don't know because there's no instructions, you're gonna disconnect, and I'm assuming use a tool to pull it forward, and it's distance limited like the other one. The problem that I did not think about before purchasing this is I have a 24 model car, okay? In 2023, the C8s changed as they got rid of, and a lot of you know this, I didn't know this until here recently when doing research. And back here behind the license plate is a little cutout area to where on the earlier C8s you could put your fob, disconnect your little key, and disconnect it, and you could open the rear hatch area with that. GM discontinued that. I don't know why, maybe cost or what, but 2023 and up does not have that. So that presents a problem. If I install this tool, am I gonna be able to get to it if I have a power failure? Because the number one condition I see happening to me will be losing power for some reason or another. And so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to access this tool. And what GM recommends, believe it or not, if you have a electrical failure, you cannot get into the back here. They want you to, if you can't jump it or find some other way, you have to actually cut out a circular area to access the lock to mechanically open it, which is crazy to me, that you have to use a circular saw and that they were going to pay body shops to do this stuff to get in there. Now that to me obviously is like a random scenario. I'm sure they find a way to power it up and get that open, but I'm trying to think about what my uses are going to be for this product. And right now, I don't know when I'd be able to use it, because if I had power failure, now if I had just a trans failure, then I can see and it won't engage. I can see that being a use for this, because then I can open the rear hatch. So as long as I can get to the hatch open, I can engage this tool pretty easily, because I can take my frunk area out, or not frunk, but my trunk area out. All right, so let's go ahead and get this installed. I'm gonna try to do a do-it-yourself kind of install video as well. Like I said, there's no instructions, so I'm just flying blind. And once we install this, I'm gonna see, is there a way to get to this tool with this trunk closed if you have a later model car? Because if there's not, I think that kind of like limits the usability of it. And I have no affiliation with Boost District. I do like Roshan. I like what he's doing over there. But I'm going to give an honest review of this. I purchased it, and I'm going to install it. And I may be wrong on some of the things I say here. You know, I'm not an expert by any means. I'm just a dude with a garage that likes to work on my car. That's all. But I have done a little bit of research, so I think that I may have at least a general idea of where this is going to be, how this is going to work, and you know, whether this is going to work for me. And we'll talk about that at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and get installed. Okay, so first things first. Obviously, we're going to take our T15s. I always keep mine kind of bare anyway, but you would normally have to take your 4 ends off, so little screws, and then T15s on your engine access plate. So for me, I just keep probably like a handful of them in there. So I'm going to take those off, and we'll get this out. Okay, so got this off. It's a 5-minute deal. I apologize for all the pollen. It's like the south, and this gets covered in like 2 seconds. So in my car, see right here. So once that's off, it's right there, easily accessible. Those look like 7mm, 8mm bolts. So I'm going to take those off. I'm assuming those come off and this plate replaces that. It's my assumption. I don't think they go over the top of it. I think it replaces it, but we'll pull this off and take a look and see. I do try to see if there's any other way to access this spot from underneath. And we'll get it on a lift when we get done to see maybe if we can. So next thing I'm gonna do is pull those 2 bolts off, and we're gonna examine kind of what that looks like. Okay, so that just comes off with 2 8mm bolts, and this is the tiny little, it's basically just a cover. You can see on here on the DCT itself, it looks like it's just like a shield, stop debris. I'm assuming there's a seal on that. And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna leave that in the same position it's in, and I'm gonna try to pop this on and then put Loctite. These bolts did not look like they had Loctite on them from the factory, but they were in there pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some on it just from the vibration that we all know these cars have, and we're gonna kind of go from there. So, so I'm gonna take this and we'll put it on. All right, so first issue, one, I tried to set this on, and it's hitting on my Corsa intake piece right there. So I'm gonna have to take this off. It's just 2 bolts, not a big deal, but I may have to clearance this piece. This is just basically like a support arm. It's not actually attached to anything, but I may have to clearance in order this works. So this is why we do these videos, so you can kind of learn from these guys that have like different, when you do modifications, other modifications become a problem at some point. And so that's kind of what we're dealing with here. So I'm gonna take this off, 2 10mm bolts, pull that out, and then we'll install this, and I'll work around how to cut this if I need to. Okay, so bolts are in. I've got Loctite on them. That's the native spot that it sits. So I'm assuming if that's the way it sits natively, that it's got to come this direction, which is towards the back of the car. I guess this is, I'm hoping that's a 15. Yeah, it's a 15. So I'm assuming you take this and you bend, yeah, okay. So then you bend it, and then once you get to that point, you slide that lever, and I can't do that with this on the phone. And that releases it. So we're gonna test that. So right now, I can't move my car, okay? So I can push on it. All right, so I'm gonna go get a helper, and I'm gonna pull on that and see if the car moves, and we'll just test and see if this works. And then we're gonna figure out, can we access this somehow without getting into the hatch area? And in that case, it's a win-win, but if I can't access it without getting in the hatch area, it's gonna make it a little problematic in the case of a battery failure. There still is an indication for it. And also for you guys with a stock intake, this is all gonna be covered, and you're gonna have to remove the stock intake, and that's a whole pain in the butt. So that may influence whether or not you do this or do not do this. So let me go get my helper. So we're gonna do a quick test. I'm gonna pull this back. I won't be able to film this, but I'm gonna basically pull this back, slide the lever in, and then me and my helper are gonna try to push the car and see if it works or not. So right now I cannot move. All right, so I got it in there. I didn't push it all the way through. I felt like it was gonna need more torque to do that. So I just got it in there enough to hold it. And now we're gonna see if the car is actually gonna move or not. So let's try this. All right, we're gonna push forward. You ready, Beth? Mm-hmm. Let's push. Okay, so yeah, all right, now you see the car does move, so we're gonna disengage it. So I'm just gonna pull this pin out. Okay, now try to move it.
Ready?
Yeah. Okay, it locks, okay. All right, so you heard the click, and that's the pawl engaging. Again, I guess it loosened it now, it's just re-engaged. All right, okay, all right, thanks, Beth. Okay, so for Corsa intake, you'll have to notch it. I could have made that notch a little smaller, but anyways, it's just a little cutout. And once you notch it, it sits in there just okay. So, all right, so now it's just gonna be the reinstall and we'll sit and have a little discussion about this on when it's indicated, at least my thoughts on it, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, a couple things. Since I have cat deletes, if you look down from this angle, if your hatch is up, I can access that. I could get a 15 down there, pull that lever, and I could turn that enough to disengage it with the hatch up. So I don't have to remove this truck panel with my setup, and that's with the Corsa and the cat deletes. The cats are going to take up a lot more space. You probably can't do that. If you do have cat deletes, that at least gives you an option of going from up top. So I'm assuming on turbo kits, the way those will come off, it'll be kind of the same deal. Also, I looked underneath, and you can technically get to that lever from underneath the car. It'll be hard to show here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it very well or not. Let's see. Okay, there, you can see it there. So you could technically get to it from underneath the car. If you had a very long 15, you can reach your hand up in there and I can pull that pin out. But I don't know if a super long 15, just box end, would be able to turn it enough with the angle, because you know how as it extends and it's longer, I don't know if it's going to be able to turn it enough to be able to disengage. So I'm just going to assume that that's not an option. Somebody could probably make a tool that would work though, that would go with this. I'm sure Rashawn could probably come up with something to where you could just do this from the rear. That would be perfect, because then I feel like the indications are a lot more. So, okay, so final thoughts. If you've got a 2021 and 22 modded car, twin turbo, lots of mods, bolt-ons, whatever, I think it's indicated to purchase, because you can access your hatch. There's lots of scenarios where you can use this. If you have 23 and up, I'm a little concerned because I can't get into the hatch. There's a power failure. There's still indications, say trans failure. I could still find a way to use this, but not be able to get into the hatch is a problem. That needs to be addressed somehow with either a tool to be able to do it externally from the rear where I showed you. Maybe somebody come up with that. It may not be possible for physical limitations, or maybe Rashawn knows of a way to do it without the hatch being open. If that's the case, then I think it's indicated on 23 and up cars. Otherwise, I think it's a personal decision, obviously highly modded. I'm not sure this is for everybody. I think it is a little bit priced high at $200, but compared to the competitors, it's still a third of the cost, so I understand that. There's Corvette tax. I'd like to see it around the $100 mark. I think you'd sell a lot more of them, but profit obviously probably goes down. So anyways, so that's my thought. So like and subscribe. I will catch you guys on the flip side. See you at the bash.